Let's be honest about the way most of us were taught to deal with autumn leaves. It usually starts with a Saturday in November. You get the rake out. You spend 3 or 4 hours dragging every fallen leaf from the lawn into a designated corner or a wire bin. You pile them up maybe 4 or 5 feet high. You feel good about it. You look at that mountain of organic matter and you think by spring that's going to be free garden soil. You let the snow fall on it. You let the winter rain soak it. You trust the process. Then April comes, the ground thaws, and you walk out to that corner of the yard with a shovel, ready to harvest your black gold. You peel back the top layer of dry gray leaves. And what do you find underneath? You find wet leaves. They haven't turned into soil. They haven't broken down. They have just compressed. They are matted together in thick slimy sheets that peel apart like wet cardboard. It smells a little sour, maybe a little like mildew. It's cold, it's heavy, and it is absolutely useless for your spring planting. This is the moment where most people give up. You look at that soggy mess and you think you did something wrong. Maybe you didn't water it enough. Maybe you didn't turn it enough. Maybe you just don't have the green thumb for composting. You end up bagging it all up and putting it on the curb for the city to take away just so you don't have to look at it anymore. I want you to know that you didn't fail. The leaves didn't fail. The model failed. We have this romantic idea that nature takes care of its own. And that is true. Eventually, if you leave that pile alone for 3 or 4 years, the forest floor will slowly reclaim it. But you are not a forest. You are a gardener who needs fertility this season. Not in 2029. What you built was not a compost system. You built a preservation system. Think about what happens when you press leaves flat and saturate them with cold winter rain. You press all the air out. You create a cold anaerobic environment. In that environment, biology stalls. The bacteria that drive decomposition, the ones that generate heat and eat through material, cannot survive without air. So instead of rotting, the leaves just sit there. They pickle. They exist in a state of suspended animation. You are relying on the static pile method. It is the most common advice given to homeowners, and it is the least effective way to generate soil. It relies on passive decay, which is slow, inconsistent, and often smelly. To turn that carbon into soil in a timeline that matters to us, days and weeks, not years, we have to stop treating the pile like a garbage dump and start treating it like a biological engine. An engine doesn't run just because you put fuel in the tank. Leaves are just the fuel. An engine needs a spark and it needs air intake. Right now your pile has fuel, but it has no fire. To fix the problem, we have to stop looking at leaves as trash and start understanding what they actually are. When a tree prepares for winter, it is smart. It doesn't throw away valuable nutrients. It pulls all the sap, the sugars, and the life force back into its roots and trunk to survive the cold. The leaf that falls to the ground is just the empty husk. It is the packaging. In biological terms, that brown leaf is almost 100% carbon. Carbon is energy. It is the building block of life. But on its own, carbon is incredibly stable. It resists change. Think of a stack of firewood sitting on your porch. That wood is carbon, just like your leaves. You can stack that wood perfectly. You can water it. You can pray over it. But unless you introduce a flame, that wood will sit there for decades. It might rot a little on the bottom, but it will never release its energy. Your leaf pile is exactly the same. It is a cold stack of fuel waiting for a match. The match in a compost pile isn't fire. It's bacteria. There are billions of microbes native to your backyard that are desperate to eat those leaves. They want to break down that carbon and turn it into rich black humus, but they can't do it on a diet of carbon alone. Imagine trying to build a house, but the only material you have is lumber. You have no nails, no screws, no concrete. You have a mountain of wood, but you can't build a structure. The bacteria are in the same position. They have a mountain of energy, the leaves, but they are missing the protein required to build their own bodies so they can multiply. This is the carbon lock. When you pile up leaves by themselves, the bacteria eat a tiny bit, run out of protein, and die off or go dormant. The population crashes, the heat stops, the pile goes cold. Most people try to solve this by turning the pile more often. They think mixing it is the answer, But stirring a pot of empty ingredients doesn't make a meal. You cannot mechanically force a biological reaction if the chemistry is missing. You don't need to work harder. You don't need a better pitchfork. You need to break the lock. You need to introduce the missing element that allows the bacteria to explode in population, consume that carbon, and generate the heat that cooks a compost pile. You have the fuel. Now you need the accelerant. So if carbon is the log, nitrogen is the fire. To wake up your pile, you need to bring the carbon to nitrogen ratio down from 80:1, which is just dead leaves, to about 30:1. That is the biological sweet spot. That is where the explosion happens. Now you might be thinking, okay, I'll just sprinkle some lawn fertilizer or throw some coffee grounds in there. This is where most people fail again. If you throw dry nitrogen powder or coffee grounds onto a pile of dry leaves, gravity takes over. The small particles sift right through the loose leaves and end up at the bottom of the pile. The leaves stay on top, dry and hungry. The nitrogen sits on the bottom, unused. They never touch. The reaction never starts. To get the fire burning, the nitrogen has to coat the carbon. It needs to soak into the skin of the leaf. We don't use dry powder. We use a liquid accelerator. This is the secret sauce. It is a high nitrogen solution that does two things at once. It provides the moisture the leaves desperately need, and it delivers the protein directly to the bacteria on the surface of every single leaf. Here is the recipe I have used for years. It is simple, cheap, and powerful. You need a standard 5-gallon bucket. The homestead formula if you have animals: take 2 shovels of chicken manure or fresh rabbit manure. Put them in the bucket. Fill the rest with water. Stir it vigorously with a stick until it looks like dark, muddy coffee. This is the gold standard. It is full of nitrogen, and more importantly, it is already alive with the gut bacteria from the animal. It is a starter culture. Then there is the suburban formula. If you buy supplies, if you don't have livestock, go to the garden center and buy a bag of blood meal or pelletized chicken manure fertilizer. These are extremely high in nitrogen. Take 2 cups of blood meal, dissolve it into your 5-gallon bucket of water, stir it until it is fully suspended. This liquid is your spark. It is 100% organic, extremely potent, and it is the only thing that can break the carbon lock. When you pour this over the shredded leaves, you aren't just watering them. You are marinating the carbon in the fuel it needs to burn. You are creating a habitat. Before we strike that match, we have to build the fireplace. You have your fuel, the leaves, you have your accelerant, the nitrogen liquid. But if you just mix them together on a tarp or a concrete driveway, you are fighting against nature. You are cutting off the supply line. First, look at where you are going to build this. The location matters more than the container. You don't need a fancy tumbling bin or a perfectly constructed cedar box. You just need a patch of bare earth. This is non-negotiable. Your compost pile needs a connection to the soil below it. It is a doorway. When the pile heats up, organisms will migrate up from the ground to help process the material. When the pile cools down or gets too dry, they retreat back into the earth to survive. If you build on concrete, you break that cycle. You isolate the system. Find a spot on the grass or dirt roughly 4 feet by 4 feet. That is your stage. Now we have to talk about the leaves themselves. This is the step that separates the successful piles from the slime molds. You must shred your leaves. I know it feels like extra work. I know you just want to rake them and be done. But you have to understand the engineering of a leaf. A leaf is designed by the tree to be waterproof. It has a waxy coating on the outside. Its shape is designed to shed rain, acting like a shingle to direct water down to the tree's drip line. If you stack whole leaves, you are essentially stacking thousands of tiny waterproof tarps on top of each other. When you pour water or our liquid accelerator onto whole leaves, it doesn't soak in. It runs off the sides. The inside of the pile stays dry as a bone, and the carbon stays locked. We have to break that architecture. Run your lawnmower over the leaves. Do it twice if you have to. You want to turn those whole leaves into confetti. When you shred a leaf, 2 things happen. First, you destroy the waterproof structure. You turn a shingle into a sponge. Instead of repelling liquid, the shredded edges drink it up. This is critical for absorbing that nitrogen solution we just made. Second, you exponentially increase the surface area. Imagine a block of ice. It takes forever to melt. Now imagine that same block of ice crushed into snow. It melts instantly. By shredding the leaves, you are creating millions of jagged edges and open veins where the bacteria can enter and feed. You are making the food bite-sized for the microbes. Don't skip this. A pile of whole leaves will sit for a year. A pile of shredded leaves, treated correctly, can disappear in a month. Get your mower, mulch them up, catch them in the bagger. Now we are ready to build. Now we build the engine. Bring your bags of shredded leaves and your bucket of liquid accelerator to the spot you've chosen. This is the moment where chemistry becomes biology. We aren't just piling things up. We are mixing a reaction. I want you to think of this like building a lasagna. We are going to work in layers. Start by emptying a bag of those dry shredded leaves onto your patch of ground. Spread them out until you have a base about 6 inches deep. It will look fluffy and light. This is your first layer of fuel. Now take your bucket of nitrogen solution. Dip a smaller pitcher or a watering can into it. You don't want to dump the whole 5-gallon bucket at once. Sprinkle that dark, nutrient-rich liquid over the layer of leaves. You want to move your hand back and forth, ensuring you get good coverage. Here is the most important part, the step that manuals usually skip. You have to get your hands dirty. After you pour the liquid, reach down and toss the leaves. Mix them up. You are trying to ensure that every single shred of leaf gets kissed by that nitrogen solution. If you find dry pockets, add a little more liquid. If it feels too dry, add some plain water from the hose. You are looking for a specific texture. We call it the sponge test. Pick up a handful of the mixture and squeeze it as hard as you can in your fist. If water streams out and runs down your wrist, it is too wet. You are drowning the microbes. Add more dry leaves. If you open your hand and the leaves crumble and fall apart instantly, it is too dry. The bacteria will go dormant. Add more liquid. What you want is for that handful to hold its shape when you open your fingers like a ball of dough, and for just 1 or 2 drops of water to appear between your knuckles when you squeeze. That is the perfect environment. That is the balance where air and water coexist. Once you have that first layer mixed and moistened, repeat the process. Add another 6 inches of shredded leaves. Pour the accelerator. Mix. Test the moisture. Keep going until you have used all your leaves. You are aiming for a pile that is at least 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall. This size isn't arbitrary. A pile smaller than 3 feet cannot insulate itself. The heat we are about to generate will escape faster than it can build up, but a 3-foot pile has enough mass to trap the heat in the core, creating a thermal feedback loop. When you are done, you shouldn't have a flat, heavy mat. You should have a fluffy, damp mound that stands up on its own. It is breathing. Cover it with a loose tarp or a piece of old carpet to keep the rain off and the heat in, but don't seal it tight. It needs to breathe. You have now set the stage. You have combined carbon, nitrogen, water, and air in the exact ratios life requires. Now you step back and let the microbes go to work. Now we watch the clock. If you built your pile correctly, if you shredded the leaves and hit that moisture balance, you don't have to wait months for something to happen. You will see the reaction start almost immediately. This is the 18-day cycle. It is a fast, hot burn. For the first 3 days, do absolutely nothing. Just let it sit. Inside that pile, the bacteria are waking up. They are consuming the easy sugars and the nitrogen you provided. As they eat and multiply, they generate heat. On the morning of day 3 or day 4, go outside early while the air is still crisp. Pull back the tarp. You should see steam rising from the center of the pile. If you stick your hand into the middle, be careful. It should feel hot. Not just warm, but hot, like a bath drawn a little too high. Ideally, it's hitting between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat is the signal. It means the system is live. It means you are killing weed seeds and pathogens. It means the carbon is melting. But by day 5, that heat will start to fade. This isn't because the fuel is gone. It's because the fire is suffocating. The bacteria have used up all the oxygen in the center of the pile. If you leave it alone now, it will go anaerobic, cool down, and start to smell bad. This is your cue to work. You need to turn the pile. Take your pitchfork and move the outside of the pile, the parts that were cool and dry, into the center. Move the hot steaming center material to the outside. You are effectively flipping the pile inside out. As you toss the material, you are fluffing it up, introducing fresh oxygen into the mix. Water it lightly as you turn it. The heat drives off moisture, so you need to replace what evaporated. Do the squeeze test again. Keep it like that wrung-out sponge. Within 24 hours of turning, the temperature will spike again. The fresh oxygen acts like bellows on a fire. You will repeat this process every 2 days or so. Turn, water, cover, turn, water, cover. Around day 10 or 12, you will notice a change. The material no longer looks like shredded leaves. It starts to turn a dark, uniform brown. The smell changes too. The sharp scent of ammonia or wet leaves disappears, replaced by a deep, earthy aroma. It smells like the forest floor. By day 18 or 20, the pile will stop heating up no matter how much you turn it. This is not a failure. It is the finish line. The thermophilic heat-loving bacteria have done their job. They have consumed the easy energy. Now the pile cools down and the worms and fungi move in to finish the curing process. You have successfully run the engine. You compressed a year of decomposition into 3 weeks. What you are left with after those few weeks is no longer waste. It is wealth. Reach into that finished pile. The material is cool now. It is dark, almost black. It crumbles through your fingers like chocolate cake crumbs. It holds moisture without being wet. This is what we call black gold. It is the most valuable thing you can put into your garden. When you spread this onto your vegetable beds, you aren't just adding filler. You are inoculating your soil with life. You are returning all that solar energy the trees gathered last summer back into the earth to fuel next year's tomatoes, peppers, and greens. This is where the real payoff happens. It isn't just about getting rid of leaves. It is about independence. Every wheelbarrow of compost you make is 10 bags of soil you don't have to buy from the hardware store. It is 10 bags of plastic you don't have to throw away. It is money that stays in your pocket. But more than that, it is the peace of mind that comes from knowing exactly what is going into your food. You know there are no hidden chemicals, no sludge, no fillers. It is just your leaves, your effort, and nature's process. You have closed the loop. You stopped looking at your property as a series of problems to be cleaned up and started seeing it as a system that feeds itself. Now, I don't want you to go out and try to compost every single leaf on your property this weekend. That is how you burn out. That is how this becomes a chore instead of a joy. Start small, just build one pile, find one corner, mow one section of the lawn, mix one bucket of accelerator, commit to just that one 18-day cycle. Watch it heat up, watch it steam on a cold morning, turn it and watch it change. Once you see that steam rising for the first time, once you feel that heat coming from a pile of dead leaves, you won't need me to convince you anymore. You will understand the power you have in your own backyard. You will realize that you don't need to buy fertility. You just need to unlock it. The leaves are falling. The system is waiting. It's time to build your fire. If this guide changed the way you look at the autumn leaves in your yard, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the natural history and gardening secrets that have been buried for too long. Let's grow the future together. The next treasure of the earth will be revealed soon.